Hello students, today we are going to revise class 12 psychology chapter 1. Chapter 1 is variation in psychological attributes. Today we will revise about individual differences in human functioning, assessment of psychological attributes, intelligence and theories of intelligence. Rest we will do in the next video. Individual differences in human functioning. As we already know that variability is a fact of nature and individuals are no exception to this. Variability can be in terms of physical characteristics such as height, weight, strength, hair color, etc., or in terms of a person's personality or psychological dimensions like intelligence, dominance, submissiveness, creativity, withdrawn, etc. Individual differences refers to distinctiveness and variations among people's characteristics and behavior pattern. Psychologists believe that our behavior are influenced by our personality traits. Some other hold the view that our behavior are influenced more by situational factors. This gives rise to the situationism, which means that situations and circumstances in which one is placed influences one's behavior. The situationist perspective views human behavior relatively more as a result of influence of external factors than personal traits. Assessment of psychological attributes. Our first steps towards understanding someone's psychological attribute is assessment. Assessment refers to the measure of psychological attributes of an individual and their evaluation, often using multiple methods in terms of certain standard of comparison. Assessments are of two types, formal assessment and informal assessment. Formal assessment is objective, standardized and organized, while informal assessment varies from case to case and from one assessor to another and therefore is open to subjective interpretation. Psychological assessment uses systematic testing procedure to evaluate abilities, behavior, and personal qualities of an individual. Some domains of psychological attributes are intelligence, aptitude, interest, personality, and values, and some methods of assessment are psychological testing, interview, case study, observation, and self-report. Intelligence. The Oxford Dictionary explains intelligence as the power of perceiving, learning, understanding, and knowing. Alfred Binet was one of the first psychologists who worked on intelligence. He defined intelligence as the ability to judge well, understand well, and reason well. Wechsler defined it as the global and aggregate capacity of an individual to think rationally, act purposefully, and to deal effectively with his or her environment. Other psychologists such as Gardner and Sternberg have suggested that an intelligent individual not only adapts to the environment but also actively modifies and shapes it. Now, let's talk about the theories of intelligence. Theories of intelligence can be broadly classified as either representing a psychometric structural approach or an information processing approach. Psychometric approach considers intelligence as an aggregate of abilities. That means that it expresses an individual's performance in terms of a single index of cognitive abilities, while information processing approach describes the processes people use in intellectual reasoning and problem solving. That means that it focuses on how an intelligent person acts. Theories of intelligence. First theory of intelligence is uni or one factor theory by Alfred Binet. In his theory, he conceptualized that intelligence as consisting of one similar set of abilities which can be used for solving any or every problem in an individual's environment. Hence, his theory came to be known as one-factor or unifactor theory of intelligence. This gave rise to the Charles Peirceman's two-factor theory in 1927. In his theory, he stated that there are two factors of intelligence, that is, J factor or general factor, or specific factor or S factor. He used a statistical method called factor analysis to determine these factors. He said that in G factor or general factor, it includes mental operations which are primary and common to all performances, while in S factor or specific factor, there are some specific traits that a person holds. For example, excellent singers have high S factor in singing or music. Spearman's theory gave rise to Louis Thurston's theory. Louis Thurston proposed that theory of primary mental abilities. It states that intelligence consists of 7 primary abilities, each of which is relatively. These abilities are verbal comprehension, that means grasping meaning of words, concepts and ideas. Second is numerical ability, that is speed and accuracy in numerical and computational skills. Third is spatial relations, that is visualizing patterns and form. Fourth is perceptual speed, that is speed in perceiving details. Fifth is word fluency, that is using word fluency and flexibly. Sixth is memory, accuracy in recalling information, and the last and the seventh is inductive reasoning, that is deriving general rules from the presented facts. Arthur Jensen proposed a hierarchical model of intelligence consisting of abilities operating at two levels, called level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is the associative learning in which output is more or less similar to the input. Level 2, called cognitive competence, involves higher order skills as they transform the input to produce an effective output. J.P. Guilford proposed the structure-of-intellect model, which classifies intellectual traits among 3 dimensions, that is, operation, contents, and products. Operations are what the respondent does. This includes cognitive, memory, recording, memory retention, divergent production, convergent production, and evaluation. Contents refers to the nature of materials or information on which intellectual operations are performed. Products refer to the form in which information is processed by the respondent. Since this classification includes 6 into 5 into 6 categories, that means 6 contents, 5 products and 6 operations. Therefore, the model has 180 cells. Each cell is expected to have at least one factor or ability. Some cells have more than one factor. Each factor is described in all of the 3 dimensions. Howard Gardner proposed the theory of multiple intelligence. According to him, intelligence is not a single entity, rather, distinct types of intelligence exist. Each of these intelligences are independent of each other. He gave the following types of intelligence: linguistic, an ability to produce and use language; logical mathematical, an ability to think logically and critically and solve problems; spatial, an ability to form visual images and patterns; musical, an ability to produce and manipulate musical rhythms and patterns; bodily kinesthetic, an ability to use whole or portions of the body flexibly and creatively; interpersonal, an ability to understand to subtle aspects of others' behavior; intrapersonal, an ability to understand one's own feelings, motives and desire; and naturalistic, an ability to identify the feature of the natural world. Triarchic theory of intelligence was proposed by Robert Sternberg in 1985. Sternberg views intelligence as the ability to adapt to shapes and select environment to accomplish one's goals and those of one's society and culture. According to this theory, there are three basic types of intelligences, that is, componential, experiential, and contextual. Componential intelligence or analytical intelligence is the analysis of information to solve problems. Person high on this ability think analytically and critically and succeed in school. Experiential intelligence or creative intelligence is evolved in using past experiences creatively to solve novel or new problems. It reflects a person to be creative or high on creative performance. Contextual intelligence or practical intelligence involves the ability to deal with the environmental demands encountering on a daily basis. This may be called street smartness or business sense. Sternberg's triarchic theory of intelligence represents the information processing approach of understanding intelligence. Planning, attention-arousal, and simultaneous-successive or past model of intelligence was developed by J.P. Das, Jack Naglieri, and Kirby in 1994. According to this model, intellectual activity involves the interdependent functioning of three neurological systems called the functional units of the brain. These units are responsible for arousal attention, coding or processing, and planning respectively. Arousal attention, an optimal level of arousal focuses our attention to the relevant aspect of a problem. Simultaneous and successive processing. Simultaneous processing helps us in grasping the meaning and relationship between the given abstract figures. Successive processing takes place when you remember all the information serially so that the recall of one leads to the recall of the other. Planning. It allows us to think of the possible course of action, implement them to reach a target and evaluate their effectiveness. From this model, Das and Nilgiri have also developed a battery of tests known as the cognitive assessment systems. This model represents the information processing approach to intelligence. Thank you, students. I hope it was informative. In the next video, we will cover the rest of the chapter.